For the next 72 hours, he's not allowed to lose the drug ship. Somewhere below, a suspected drug smuggling vessel is moving through international waters along routes that run close to Venezuela. His orders are simple and unforgiving. Find it, stay outside restricted airspace, and keep it in sight for as long as fuel, crew, and procedure allow. If the track breaks, the operation breaks with it. The aircraft is already heavy with fuel when he pushes the throttles forward. Runway lights rush beneath the nose, then disappear as the jets lift into the dark. Within minutes, land fades behind him. Ahead lies open water and a long night. At altitude, the cockpit settles into a steady mechanical rhythm. Headset on, instruments stable. Outside the windows there is no horizon, only black sky blending into black sea. He turns onto a wide oval orbit over international waters and starts the mission clock. On his screens, the ocean is crowded with data. Most of it is ordinary. Shipping traffic following predictable lines, fishing vessels moving slowly. For now, everything looks normal. But he knows this phase well. The first hours are about patience. Because when something matters, it rarely looks dramatic at first. It looks like a small detail that refuses to behave. The first indication comes without drama. A new contact appears on his display, faint and inconsistent, sitting just outside a busy shipping lane. At first glance, it looks ordinary. The speed is low, the heading wanders, nothing about it demands attention on its own. He marks it anyway. As the minutes pass, the contact refuses to settle into a normal pattern. Commercial vessels move with purpose. Fishing boats cluster or drift. This one does neither. Its course shifts with small increments, just enough to avoid committing to a direction. The speed stays uneven. When he checks identification data, it offers no clarity. He calls the track out over the radio, keeping his voice neutral. The response from mission coordination is brief and controlled. Hold it. Stay on it. Do not close the distance. Maintain international airspace. That single instruction changes the tone inside the cockpit. This is no longer a broad area patrol. The aircraft's orbit tightens, sensor priority shifts, every update is time-stamped and logged. He understands what this means. The contact has crossed an internal threshold somewhere above him, far from the cockpit. Analysts will now look for consistency, patterns over hours, not moments. Course changes, speed adjustments, gaps where signals disappear and return. The mission is no longer about finding something new, it is about not letting this one disappear. Once the contact has confirmed his priority, the limits of his role become clear. He's not hunting, he's not intercepting, he is observing. And that distinction governs everything he does next. The aircraft remains in international airspace at all times. His navigation displays shows invisible boundaries he cannot see. Venezuelan airspace lies close enough that a small error in heading or turn radius would matter. He double-checks every waypoint before committing the aircraft to it. Precision is no longer optional. He is also bound by the rules of evidence. A single radar return proves nothing. One unusual maneuver means nothing by itself. His job is to build time. Hours of consistent data. Course, speed, behavior. Only patterns count. Command authority sits far above him. Decisions about interdiction, escalation, or withdrawal will be made by people who will never see the ocean the way he does now. What they will see are his reports. If those reports are incomplete or rushed, the picture collapses. There is pressure in that understanding, but it is quiet pressure. No alarms, no raised voices, just the knowledge that he cannot afford assumptions. He cannot label intent. He cannot improvise. All he can do is hold the aircraft steady, keep the sensors aligned, and make sure the track remains clean and unbroken. The mission does not require boldness, it requires restraint, and hours of disciplined attention without drifting even slightly off the line he's been given. By the 6th hour, the shape of the mission is fixed. This is no longer a question of whether the contact matters. It is a question of whether he can keep it alive in the system. He adjusts the orbit carefully. Too wide and the sensors lose resolution. Too tight and the aircraft drifts closer to airspace he's not allowed to enter. The turn radius becomes constant calculations in his head. Wind speed, ground track, fuel burn. Every correction is small, deliberate, and reversible. Inside the cockpit, the work turns procedural. Sensor operators call out updates. He listens, confirms, and times each report before sending it up the chain. Course unchanged, speed fluctuating, contact maintaining distance from regular shipping lanes. Each detail is logged because later, analysts will stack these hours on top of each other and decide what they mean. Fuel becomes the next constraint. He checks the numbers again, even though he already knows them. Without refueling, the track will end early. The decision is not dramatic, but it is final. He requests tanker support and receives a narrow window of time and position. When the tanker appears ahead, it is just another aircraft against the night sky. The margin for error is small. He brings the nose forward, steady and slow, matching speed and altitude. The ocean below offers no reference. All his attention narrows to alignment, closure rate, and stability. Contact, hold it there, comes over the intercom. The connection is smooth. The fuel begins to flow. He holds position for long minutes, knowing that this is the moment the entire mission hinges on. If refueling fails, the track breaks. If he drifts, the refuel aborts. When the tanks are finally topped off and the aircraft separates cleanly, he exhales once and only once. The decision has worked. The clock resets. He turns back onto the orbit, sensors already realigning. The long track continues. Not because of a single bold move, but because every small procedure has been executed exactly as trained. The effect is almost immediate. Within an hour of resuming the orbit, the tone of the radio traffic changes. Requests for updates come faster now, paced closer together. Analysts want confirmation, then reconfirmation. Timestamps matter more than phrasing. He notices it in the questions. Not, what do you see, but is it still doing the same thing? Continuity has become the priority. The contact below maintains its strange behavior. It does not join other traffic. It does not commit to a destination. When it alters course, it does so gradually, as if testing the edges of attention. Each change is small, but logged. Each hour adds weight to the picture being built somewhere far beyond the cockpit. He understands what has happened. The track has crossed another internal line. What started as a possible anomaly is now treated as operationally relevant. Other assets will be aligned around it. Ships repositioned, plans adjusted. But none of that works if the track breaks. That responsibility settles on him quietly. No one says it directly, but he feels it in every request for precision. A missed update would force assumptions. A late report would create gaps that cannot be filled later. So he slows his own tempo. Fewer words, cleaner calls. Every report sent only when it is complete. The mission is no longer about endurance alone. It is about credibility. As long as he holds the aircraft steady and the data is clean, the operation above him can continue to move forward. By the second day, the mission is no longer measured in hours. It is measured in systems that must be kept stable. He treats his own body like one of them. Food is planned, not eaten casually. Small packets, spaced out. Enough to keep energy steady, never enough to feel heavy. He avoids eating out of boredom, because boredom is dangerous up here. Every action is intentional. Every habit is designed to prevent mistakes later. Water is managed the same way. Hydration keeps his reaction time sharp, but too much becomes a distraction in a cockpit where movement is limited. He drinks on a schedule, not when he feels like it. Coffee is rationed. Caffeine helps, but only if it is timed. Too early and it fades. Too late and it disrupts sleep cycles that barely exist. They speak less than people expect. When they do, it is short and functional. Fuel check complete. Copy. Track still steady. There is comfort in that simplicity. Words are used only when they add value. Refueling comes again, and with it another narrow margin. The tanker rendezvous is always tense, no matter how many times he has done it. The aircraft feels heavier now. Fatigue makes small corrections harder. He slows everything down on purpose. As he eases forward, the tanker's lights become the only reference in a world with no horizon. His hands stay light on the controls. Overcorrecting would be worse than drifting slightly. 3, 2, 1, hold. The connection locks in cleanly. Fuel flows. He holds position, muscles tight but controlled. This is not the time to think about how long he has been awake. This is the time to fly the aircraft exactly where it needs to be. When the refuel is complete, separation is clean and quiet. No celebration, just a return to the orbit and the work. Between refuels and reports, there are moments of stillness. The ocean below never changes. The contact remains just far enough away to demand attention. He uses these moments to reset his focus. One breath, one checklist, one clean scan of the instruments. This is how 72 hours becomes possible. Not through toughness, but through discipline. By reducing everything to manageable pieces, he keeps the mission intact. As long as the routine holds, the track holds. And as long as the track holds, nothing else matters. By the third day, the airspace itself becomes part of the mission. He sees it in the planning notes and hears it in the brief updates passed over secure channels. Civil aviation is being warned to stay away from the region. Routes are adjusted, altitudes avoided. The skies near Venezuela are no longer treated as neutral background, they are treated as sensitive. From the cockpit, nothing looks different. The ocean is the same dark surface. The clouds still drift slowly below, but the rules around him tighten. Every turn is flown exactly as filed. Every altitude change is cross-checked. There is no room for casual corrections. He understands why. Increased military presence compresses margins. Surveillance aircraft, naval patrols, and regional air traffic all operate under separate authorities, but they share the same space. A misunderstanding does not need weapons to become dangerous. It only needs silence or delay. The contact below continues moving, still uncommitted, still avoiding clear identification. That behavior now exists inside a wider context of tension. He feels it in the restraint of the radio calls. No speculation, no commentary, just facts. Outside the aircraft, criticism grows. News coverage questions the scope of the operation. Some call it counter-narcotics, others call it pressure. He hears none of the arguments directly, but he knows they exist. They always do. Inside the cockpit, those debates are irrelevant. His risk is simpler and more immediate. A navigation error that crosses a boundary, a delayed response to traffic advisories, a rushed report that introduces ambiguity. He keeps his voice even, keeps the aircraft exactly where it belongs. The mission does not ask him to take sides. It asks him to avoid becoming the reason the situation escalates. In this airspace, professionalism is not just about skill. It's about preventing friction before it forms. When the final handover comes, it is quiet and procedural. He reads out the last set of coordinates, confirms the timestamps, and acknowledges the transfer of responsibility. Another aircraft will pick up the orbit. Other crews will take over the watch. The track, built hour by hour, now exists independently of him. He turns the aircraft away from the racetrack pattern and sets a new heading. For the first time in 3 days, the mission clock no longer dictates every action. The engines sound the same, but his role has changed. There's no sense of closure in the way people imagine it. No confirmation of outcomes, no summary of what the contact ultimately was or how it ended. That information belongs to reports and decisions made elsewhere, long after he has landed. What remains with him is simpler. For 72 hours, his responsibility was not to solve a problem, but to preserve clarity. To keep a single thread unbroken in an environment where tension, fatigue, and proximity to restricted airspace make mistakes more likely. As the coastline finally reappears on the horizon, he runs the shutdown checklist exactly as written. Training does not relax just because the pressure is gone. This mission will be described publicly in broad terms: surveillance, deterrence, counter-narcotics. It may be debated, criticized, or reframed. None of that changes what it demanded in the cockpit. It demanded discipline without recognition, restraint without certainty, and the ability to hold a line for as long as necessary, knowing that the most important thing he could do was ensure nothing happened because of him. This mission never made headlines the way airstrikes do. There was no explosion, no interception on camera, no clear ending that fit into a single sentence. And that is exactly why it matters. For 72 hours, one pilot held a line most people will never see. Not with weapons, but with discipline. Not with force, but with restraint. Moments like this rarely change the world overnight, but they quietly shape what does not happen next. Now we're curious. What do you think about missions like this, where control and patience matter more than action? And if you're watching right now, let us know which country you're watching from. We're always amazed to see how global this community has become. Thanks for watching. If this story gave you a new perspective on what military service really looks like, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep telling stories like this and reach more people who care about them. Let's keep telling these stories so the people who carry this responsibility don't remain invisible. See you in the next one.